Up rather rapidly. Tony Bettenhausen, a fine young driver, but young is the key word, and the equipment is not that Bobby Unser has under him, though Tony's been doing a fine job this year, keeping in the races, driving a clean race, driving safe races, and he's still leading as they come around. In turn 2, we have a report of a problem. Yellow flag is out again. Yellow flag is out. A.J. Foyt into the wall. A.J. Foyt.
Foyt in turn 2 went into the wall, then rode down the wall. Thus far, though, there has been no fire, but A.J. is not moving. A.J. is not getting out of the car.
Fuel leaking down across the track. The fire crews are there. The car is sitting firmly against the wall. The crews are at the machine. A.J. Foyt's number 14. The yellow flag is out again. And this will slow the race further. No movement indicated from A.J. Foyt's car. Crews on the scene will continue to watch. Pace car is back on the racetrack, and it will bring the fields around.
A.J. still sitting in the car.
Steve Edwards, who was instrumental in that last accident, is on the scene now, looking over the car.
The jaws of life.
That's what that signal indicates. They're going to want those jaws to try and pry the car out. You saw it in our demonstration earlier. Steve Edwards, they can use it either to pry the car apart, or they can use it to cut large pieces of metal. And it looks like that car is badly damaged on the right side. So they want to use the jaws to gently pry the car apart. They'll take their time. There's no reason for them to speed up at this point. They want to take it easy and make sure that they don't injure a driver any more than the injuries he might have sustained. In the old days, when they pick him up, Charlie, and just run with him, so often they would cause more injuries in the rescue than they did in the actual work.
Dick Simon's car, he may have blown an engine from San Juan Capistrano, so he has dropped low on the racetrack. We, of course, are under the yellow with the situation with A.J. Foyt, and you may have noticed that one of the men immediately went in and put his hand behind A.J.'s head. Go back to the demonstration that we showed you earlier. When they move a race driver, they always want to protect that head and keep the head way forward.
Well, that's the concern. It is a broken neck, a broken cervical spine, and you have to assume it. It's very seldom true, but you have to assume it. There's those jaws of life from the demonstration earlier. Now watch them just snip off the locking mechanism in this car from our demonstration and bring incredible pressure to the tips of those jaws. And now they've got the door wedged open, and here come the cutters in Steve Edwards' hands. This is a demonstration videotaped earlier this week. And he will come in and just snip off the lock, which is holding the door together. There it is, and they get out. An incredible piece of machinery. It is used not only in racing, of course, it's used by fire departments and rescue services across the country with great success. It saved a lot of lives.
And that, of course, is the machinery that they're using on A.J.'s car. Dick Simon has now come into the pits.
We're down here in A.J. Foyt's pit. The crew obviously very concerned. They're trying to monitor radio information. We passed car owner Jim Gilmore, who went by us on a golf cart. He said that their initial report was it was a serious crash. Now let's listen in on this conversation. Well, a difficult problem here for us to understand what those radio transmissions are saying. Crew, of course, just standing by waiting anxiously for any information that they can get. That's the situation at the moment here in the A.J. Foyt pit.
And also, they just used a backboard to slide in behind A.J. And that, of course, is what Paul was talking about. You assume the worst and you use every precaution possible, and that's to give support to the back, the neck, and to the head.
Well, there's plenty of help there. Steve Edwards in the orange safety suit up over the top of the car. With his back to us is Dr. Steve Alvey. He is the medical director of CART, and they have a philosophy that the doctor should always be the same at every race course. That way the competitors know who they're talking to, and they have a certain level of confidence in someone who constantly takes care of them. And that is who's with them now, Dr. Alvey.
This is the accident in turn 2. We're under the yellow with 83 laps complete. A.J. Foyt, who just 2-3 weeks ago joined CART to run particularly in this race. This is where he first made his impact against the fence. Was set to go last Sunday. We were postponed due to the rain delay, and A.J. did not have an opportunity. He arrived late yesterday, did not have an opportunity to practice.
Well, A.J. has been an absolute delight the entire time he has been here. He has spent plenty of time talking with folks, talking to the reporters that are here covering this event. I walked down to the end of the pits the other day and had a delightful conversation with him. He really has been enjoying what he's doing. He says he likes to race, and that's why he's here.
All right, we'll be back, of course, with more of the Michigan 500. Now placed him into the ambulance. They had a small problem, just took a bit of time to get him out of his car that impacted against the wall in turn 2. But he is in that ambulance and will be taken immediately to the field hospital here.
Well, he'll go to that hospital for initial evaluation. They'll make a decision in the ambulance whether or not they should even stop there. If there is any reason, then they'll go right on to the hospital. Let's go back and look just a moment ago. Here is the scene at the car. A lot of people there, plenty of help as they were removing Foyt from the car, badly damaged on the right-hand side, but rather rapidly they were able to pick him up, get him out of the car, very careful when they picked him up to make sure that they didn't cause any additional injury. And they brought A.J. Foyt out of the car, loaded him into the ambulance, and the ambulance now wending its way around the track, and then it'll make a decision based on the severity of injury, a situation that we know nothing about. We have no idea whether he is injured badly or not, but they are being very careful, and they will decide will they go to the track hospital or will they go on to another facility.
And of course, we also should point out that they do have a helicopter standing by in case that it is needed, or they can take him to the hospital in the ambulance. Either way.
Report to work. There's A.J. Foyt's car, so you can see how hard it hit that wall, ripped the entire right side off of the car. But it looks to me like the cockpit is in pretty good shape. It's flattened. Remember, these cars, Charlie, have deformable structure. That's a very important term. The idea is that when you hit something, that the parts will absorb the energy of the impact, and the parts will come off, and accidents will look like they're terrible because parts are flying everywhere. But in that action alone, the kinetic energy of the crash is being released and hopefully not being transferred to the driver.
The car of A.J. Foyt impacting on the right side into the fence in turn 2 and then going down the fence.
Yes, I got
as you can see, completely tearing out the right side. And now let's go down to Bruce Jenner. Bruce?
Right now I'm with Steve Edwards. And Steve, how is A.J. doing? I noticed his car, the whole right side of it's gone.
Yeah, he hit the line pretty hard on the right side, Bruce. He was pinned in the race car. We were able to extricate him. He was unconscious when we got to it. He was regaining consciousness when we put him in the ambulance. It'd be premature to state his condition right now, but he was regaining consciousness. He was talking. There appears to be some injury to his right arm, and you know, that's all I can really tell you right now. But we do have him out of the race car, and he is on his way to the hospital.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce.
All right, Charlie, that's what's happened right down here with A.J. He's not in too good a shape right now.
All right, Bruce, can you stay with Steve there just a minute?
Certainly.
Because he was burned earlier. How is he doing? Because he's been all over the place.
Well, I talked to him a second ago, and he seemed to be doing fine. He says it hurts a lot at right foot, but he's a busy man today.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
So now A.J. Foyt on his way to the hospital, but Charlie, they have some situations out in that turn. Its car badly damaged, and when it did that, it didn't only damage the car, it damaged the barrier. This is an Armco steel barrier all the way around, and now they're sending equipment out to look at the places where Foyt hits. This puts me, though not nearly as severe an accident as that of Danny Ongais earlier this year at the Indianapolis 500. And while we have still a question mark about the full condition of A.J. Foyt, though it sounded like Steve Edwards, who is a trained and certified paramedic, was rather optimistic. He was unconscious at the impact, but his conscious level is coming back. He is now beginning to respond to them. So that's a good sign in itself. But Danny Ongais is recovering rather well from the reports we're receiving from his California hospital. And one interesting report, he apparently calls his race shop every day and gives them a few more instructions about what he wants to do on the race car. Last we heard, he was hoping to be back in a race car before the end of this year. We all certainly wish Danny Ongais well and hope to see him back in a car soon.
And I also feel that he's probably watching the coverage in California right now. And we tried to talk to him, but he has a list. And it's a very select list of the people that could call in and talk to him. And neither Paul Page nor Charlie Jones's name is on that list.
Well, I saw Danny in the Indianapolis hospital just 2 days after his crash out at Methodist Hospital there. And I was amazed at the time, the tremendous strength of that guy, because he had a badly broken leg, and yet he was already trying to get exercise going.
Now let's go down to Gary Jarrell. Gary?
Well, we're outside the compound, Charlie, along the infield hospital. The emergency vehicle, as you can see, has just arrived at the back door. All, of course, unauthorized people kept outside of this area, so we're just viewing in as they bring the gurney rather gingerly down from the emergency vehicle, and they'll be taking AJ in for some preliminary observation. His crew has been anxiously standing by. A couple of them have now gone inside to be with their driver, and they were anxiously awaiting that update report from Bruce Jenner and Steve Edwards over on the far side of the track. So at this moment, we'll just stand by here and we'll wait until we can get some official word on the condition of A.J. Foyt.
This is A.J. Foyt in turn 2. This was when he had come to a stop. He hit the fence a little earlier in turn 2 and then just came sliding right down it.
Well, it looks like the car just darted up into the wall. Having not seen the start of the crash, we don't know what put it up into the wall, and then it slid for some distance. Let's go back out to the accident site and Bruce Jenner.
Right now we're at the car, and the car is completely destroyed in the back. But you notice, I'd have to say, you know, the way the car has been constructed has been fabulous. It took the shot. The whole side of the car is gone, but the cockpit, where he would be sitting, has not really been damaged at all. Just the whole side of the car has been ruined. So really, it looks like nothing from the inside of the cockpit has been hit that terribly. But boy, did he take a jolt when he hit the side of that wall. Charlie?
All right, thank you, Bruce. Of course, Bruce is way away from our normal coverage, and that's the reason that we're having a little bit of breakup on the RF mic. But just as important to get the on-the-scene report. And Bruce Jenner is there. All right.
Rear wheel and up into the fence. It looks like that, though, again, I say we didn't see it.
The official standings now with 90 laps complete. Johnny Rutherford is in first, followed by Bobby Unser in second. Tom Sneeb is in third. Rick Mears in fourth, and Mike Mosley's in fifth. Do you have an update on that?
Well, we mentioned the weather, and yes, we're getting now some reports of drizzle out behind the grandstand here, and the crews have radioed their teams. Generally speaking, they're concerned that this race may not go a full distance, and so they've told their crews, under the possibility of rain, the crews are telling their drivers, stand on it when we go green.